Hello. So, today I'm going to talk about 24 books that I want to read in 2024. Sorry. And these are just random books. I'm going to be doing some challenges next year, and I have some other things that I want to be doing. But these are 24 of the books that I own all of these. They are books I've been meaning to get to. So, these are the ones I want to focus on. All right, so the first one is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I've read everything that Riley Sager has out, except for this book. And although I hear a lot of people seem to think it's his worst, it's the only one I haven't read. So I definitely want to read it, ideally before his newer one comes out, and then I can be like completely caught up. So that's one. I own everything Eric Larson has written, except I've never read any of his books. I just hear really good things, and I like to try to shake it up and throw some nonfiction in. So I'm going to start with like his biggest one, The Devil in the White City, and I'm going to try to read that this year. So I can say I've read an Eric Larson book. The next one is Watership Down. This is Sir Chonk's favorite book, and I haven't read it. And so he was looking at my list, and he basically figured there were only 3 books in my top 20 that he hadn't read, and I think I had like a handful, mostly because of his Stephen King. He has so many Stephen King books on his top 50. But this is one that he's had on his list, and I've started it a few times. I've seen the movie, but I do want to read it because, you know, it is his favorite book, and I'd like to read it, and I hear it's good. The next one is King of Thorns, which is the second book in this Mark Lawrence trilogy. I read Prince of Thorns. I haven't read King of Thorns yet. I have it. I just haven't gotten to it. And I would like to continue the series. The next thing is The Secret History. I've had this forever. I got it early in the year last year. I want to say sometime in the spring. Or this year. I mean, it feels like it was last year. Earlier this spring, and I want to get to it. I've been meaning to get to it, and I just keep putting other books on top of it. And it is long and intimidating, but I definitely want to read this as soon as possible. And then Little Eve. I actually own Little Eve and Sundial, which I think are the 2 books I haven't read by Catriona Ward. And so I wasn't sure which one. I mean, I may swap them out, but I definitely want to try to read everything Catriona Ward has written because I've really enjoyed the things I've read by her. So Little Eve is supposed to be gothic, and I think that's going to be my next one. The next one is actually an arc I have, and this is One of the Good Guys. And I don't know a ton about this book. I think it's a thriller, a little bit of social commentary, but it's, I think, the first book, or at least one of the first books, being published by Gillian Flynn Books, which is like a publishing arm. I don't know if like Gillian Flynn has much to do with it. I don't know if she's actually editing, or if, you know, she's just kind of giving her thumbs up on certain books. But if you say Gillian Flynn, I'm going to try it. So I want to read this because Gillian Flynn, in some fashion, may have given her approval. The next is My Darling Girl by Jennifer McMahon. I won this actually in a Goodreads giveaway, which does happen apparently. I've won 2 this year actually, although I've like entered like 1 billion, but I wanted to read this anyway. So this is one I really want to get to. I've been hearing really good things. The Honest Book Reviewer loves her books, so I am going to. I really want to at least read one of her books because I keep hearing how good she is. The next one, I want to read pretty much everything T. Kingfisher has written, but I have A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking, and that sounds fun. And I think, given that I'm looking at a lot of dark stuff, as always, and a lot of thrillers and mysteries and kind of heavy reads, I think this will be a nice break throughout the year at some point. The next one is Fire and Blood, because that's the only thing. Actually, I haven't read the Night for 7 Kingdoms or whatever that collection of short stories is either. But I really want to read this because, especially before the next season of House of the Dragon comes out, to get a little more backstory. I have read there's like the World of Ice and Fire or something. It's like a big encyclopedia. I have read that. I just haven't read this, which has a little bit more of like the narrative background of the Targaryen line. Piranesi, I have been saying all year I was going to read, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. So I am getting to this. This is going to be something I will read next year. Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. I've actually only read one Cormac McCarthy book, and I've seen the movie of No Country for Old Men. I own a couple of his other books as well. I own, I think, this and All the Pretty Horses, maybe one more. So the thing is, I really, really dislike The Road. And so I've been kind of like, I don't think I want to read anything else by him. But I think like Blood Meridian, All the Pretty Horses are on like best books of all time. So I feel like I should at least give him, I always kind of give authors at least 3 books. And that means like, if I read a series or a couple books in a series, I'll try like 3 separate things. So, maybe it's just that series I don't like. So I feel like, just because you don't like one book by an author doesn't mean you don't like them. But we'll see. I might just not like him. The next one is Mexican Gothic. I know everyone's reading, I think, Silver Nitrate right now, because everyone loves this book, and I haven't read it, so I just want to read it. I have it, and I've been planning on getting to it, and it just keeps, again, things get added in front of it. I want to read The Girls by Emma Cline, just because a lot of people seem to like it, say it's feminist, really like edgy, not edgy, but, super, like, critical of society, and I like that. So, like to try this. The next one is Hyperion by Dan Simmons. I don't read a lot of sci-fi fantasy, especially like classic sci-fi fantasy. However, I found out that this whole series is based on romantic poetry, particularly Keats's poetry, and I love John Keats. So, yeah, I was like, oh, sign me up. So I want to read at least the first one in this series. Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I just hear that's really good. Everyone seems to really like it. So I want to try that one. The next one is, I want to read The Killing Joke. I don't read Batman comics, really. I love the Batman movies. Batman's one of my favorite superhero and comic book characters. But I haven't actually read, I tried a couple times to read the comic, but, the thing is, I struggle with comics to go and pick up a series that's just continuing on, like, in the middle of, 80 years of comics. And I know that they have, like, different arcs, but, I feel like there's just so much backstory I don't have. But I have read, like, some of the standalone. I read Long Halloween. I read, I think, Black Mirror. I read Batman Damned. So I like a lot of the, I read Arkham Asylum. So I like a lot of the, like, separate sort of story arcs that tie into the Batman world, into Gotham, but, and obviously this is the famous one. I know it's super controversial, but I do want to read it because, it's hard to talk about why it's controversial if I haven't even read it. And also, it's pretty major, comic book, and also I love Alan Moore, so I've liked everything he's written that I've read, so I'd like to try it. The next is DMV, which is a new Bentley Little book. I love Bentley Little. They're cheesy, they're formulaic, they're pretty traditional horror, like old school horror, but I love Bentley Little, and so I'm really excited to read a new book by him. Sisterhood Everlasting is actually the 5th in the Sisterhood of Traveling Pants series, but it came out years later, and I guess it's actually set 10 years later, so I think it's kind of okay that it's like a add-on later on, but I felt like it was wrapped up, and then this came out like a year after I had read them. It came out like 10 years, I think, after the books came out. So I think now it's been a while since I've read them, so I think this would be a good time to kind of jump back in, because I think that's sort of the feeling. You're supposed to kind of jump back in after having read them a while ago. So maybe this year. The next thing is Runtime by Catherine Ryan Howard, and this is just like a thriller set in like film, the film world. And I asked for this for Christmas last year. I've had it since Christmas last year, and I just haven't read it, so I would like to read that. The next thing is Guns, Germs, and Steel. I also asked for this for Christmas. I think it might have even been 2 Christmases ago, and I've just had it. It takes me a lot longer to get to nonfiction that I have, and it is a fairly, like, hefty book, but I'm just very interested in this. It's, it's basically how, like, different societies have fared and how, essentially Guns, Germs, and Steel have either helped or hindered societies in, continuing and thriving. And I Darken, which is a sort of retelling of, I think, Dracula, but a little bit of like a feminist bent, and I think the female character is sort of like a badass. And this is by Kirsten White, and I really loved her adult stuff. I love Mr. Magic. I really enjoyed Hide, and I was like, I think me and Caleb from Celebrity are like the only 2 people who liked Hyde. So I would like to read some of her YA. I haven't read anything else by her. Actually, that's not true. I think I read like Paranormalcy or something years ago. But so I'd really like to try this and see if I like her YA stuff as well. And then Bunny, which is just about, I guess, like a group of mean girls, but like I think it sounds a little bit like Heather's. So I'm interested in trying that. And obviously everyone loves this book, so I'd like to see how it is. And then the last one in my 24 for 24 is #murder trending. It just sounds really interesting. It's a series where basically like people are getting killed and then posted on social media. And so it sounds kind of cheesy and silly and fun. And I don't have a lot of luck with YA thrillers. I've brought this up many times this year. But I loved 10 by Gretchen McNeil, which was like her sort of high school retelling of, and then there were none. And yes, it's cheesy and silly, but it was fun. And it kind of harkened back to the sort of days of like the Christopher Pike and R.L. Stine. And so I felt like hers were like cheesy but fun. So we'll see. We'll see if this one holds up to, with like the current sort of trend of trying to be something else, but they just seem to go off the rails for me too much. So those are 24 books I'd like to read this year. We'll see, or this upcoming year. We'll see if I do. I mean, I feel like that's not that much, right? That's like 2 books a month. I should be able to get 2 books a month off of this list done. So that's kind of the goal. And if I look at it that way, okay, I'm going to pick 2 each month out of this list. That will at least motivate me to get these done. What about you? What are your books that you're going to read in 2024? Anything that you definitely feel like, that's it. This is the year I'm going to get to this book that's been sitting on my list forever, sitting on my shelf for ages. I know, like, we all do it. It's like there's so many books, and there's so many books I want to read. And sometimes I feel overwhelmed, and I just end up, like, feel like I do nothing. I just, like, stare at my bookshelf or flip through my Kindle list and then just like don't read anything. So what are you looking forward to reading in 2024? And let me know and let's talk. All right, bye.